let me put this in perspective for our listeners. The 900 or 1,000 people that were killed so far, and we're not even talking about wounded in Israel, would be analogous to our September 11th attack. Instead of 3,000 Americans being killed, it would be equal to 28,000 or 30,000 if you do the math based on population. So for the
I
people who are
actually heard
listening,
40,000. I heard somebody yesterday say 20, and that's wrong. It's
I
arguably
did the math. It's 28. It's
40,000
28
people.
to 30.
28,000. Got it.
You know me with math, right? But
Right.
regardless, the point is that this is Israel's September 11th. This is an existential threat. And I guess my next question is, and you've already started to address this, which is we've already seen Harvard, 30 or so student associations, the institution, come out against Israel, that Israel is the aggressor. You're already seeing the media turn. And the question is, how long will this White House, and I know the answer in my opinion, but I'd like yours. Will this White House give Israel the running room they need to defend themselves once and for all, as opposed to, because again, let's remember, Barack Obama forced Bibi Netanyahu, to come in through the back door. This administration has not even met with Netanyahu, right? So, and they obviously have
Well,
given
they
this money
actually
to
did.
Iran.
They did. If you
When did they
remember,
meet with
the first time a couple of years ago, uh, 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 President Biden fell asleep on him.
Oh,
But
that's
this
right.
last time, I mean, they did meet, but they didn't let him in the White House. They met off-site at the United
Right.
Nations General Assembly. But again, from my conversation with the Israeli diplomatic corps yesterday, uh, they are very hopeful that the United States will give us another 24 hours before they start making demands. They
And you
told
saw
me
that
yesterday.
Hamas has already come out and said that they're open to truce talks.
Oh yeah,
I
well they
just
said that last night. They said we have
right.
enough hostages now, and their first demand is we'll give you back these hostages, and you don't know if they're dead or alive. They didn't mention whether they're delivering, going to send back bodies or send back in exchange for every not terrorist, every Palestinian prisoner in all of your jails. So my guess is it depends on how much progress Israel makes today, but I wouldn't count on going past tomorrow. You already had Qatar, who's been such a dear friend to Israel, right? Qatar already said, well, we know both sides. We'll be glad to negotiate the ceasefire. I mean, you don't negotiate a ceasefire with somebody that's just killed an equivalent of 40,000 of your people and torched half of your country.
Yeah,
This didn't work.
I've never heard of a time where people, like, if the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor and then been like, oh, okay, just kidding, let's have a truce, cool, can we sign a treaty? Like, nobody would have been okay with that. Nobody's
That's
gonna be
right.
like, oh, okay, let's have some diplomacy.
Well, and
So
Erica, that's what Israel's saying. But again, I'll bet if you leave Bobby's house and drive over to Cambridge, they would immediately say, the first words that came out of the White House was, "Let's show restraint." Israel, show restraint. Don't shoot back. Excuse me, you just killed that first day. They thought at that point in time 100, 200 people. And they're telling Israel, stay calm, don't worry about it. But
What
that would
is
never be okay here. What would
what does
happen?
restraint mean? What does restraint mean when the this group of people has literally been calling for your death and
That's
destruction
right.
for decades?
And they have
What
never withdrawn that statement, and they still haven't withdrawn that statement.
I mean, Iran is literally cheering. The mullahs are cheering on what's happening, saying it's great. Hamas thanked Iran for the supplies and things to start this new war on Israel. You've got all this stuff going on, and everybody's saying they want Israel to die and for Israelis to die and be murdered. So, like, is the argument from the American left that Israelis should just allow themselves to die, or that they should all just get up and leave Israel? Like,
No,
what
they
it
should,
actually is the
believe what
argument?
Hamas says, which, okay, we've hit our goal now, so let's make peace, right? As if they're not going to do it again in 2 weeks. Once again, if you look at their charter, whatever, it calls for the destruction of Israel and the killing of all Jews. And
That's
by
what I'm
the
saying.
way,
So, like,
you don't need
peace is
you don't need to
everybody's
go to
dead.
Tehran to see it. Did you see New York City on Sunday? And I guess
did.
again on yesterday. I don't. But did you see the thousands of folks? And I mean, I watched this on television, and they weren't all Palestinians. There were a lot of good old Caucasians among that group
Yeah.
that believe that the Israelis are being oppressive. I mean, we know the drill. I tell this story, and Bob's heard it 100 times, but I had one meeting with Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. And I said to him, I know this is rhetorical and I know the answer, but do you realize if you look at the Palestinian education and work ethic, if you combined that labor force with Israel technology, that you would be the economic engine of the entire Mideast? And his response to me was he shrugged his shoulders, basically saying, we know that, but we don't control anything. We're being controlled, but being controlled by Iran's proxies in the region, which are Syria, Lebanon, but mainly the militant wings are Hamas and Hezbollah. And so they're totally funded. They're totally manned, if you will. And by the way, Bobby, I heard another statistic yesterday, which is amazing. A lot of these rockets that are coming from Hamas, how about this? Are the rockets that we left in Afghanistan when we left in 24 hours and left all the weaponry there? Those are now being shot from Gaza into Israel. So
I've seen those reports, and I've seen the pictures.
We are getting hit by American-made missiles as a result of this administration's having left all of that equipment, tanks, guns, whatever, in Afghanistan. Okay.
And according to now retired, not chief of staff, Miley, I forget his position, Joint Chiefs, head of the Joint Chiefs, head of the Joint Chiefs. His rationale was, well, it was cheaper to leave the weapons there than to take them out.